Let me take this opportunity to call the house to order. If you're still serving breakfast, please just speak it, come and settle down so that we start our program. Those still serving on this side as well, let's get settled so that we start our program. Julian Samboko is my name. I'm the editor in charge of finance and economics of the broadcast division of the Nation Media Group. And I'm truly delighted to be here to be part of this auspicious launch of Solv Kenya. Let's settle down, please, on that side. Let's settle down, and I want to start with some very basic housekeeping. We encourage all of us to have our phones on silent mode so we don't disrupt the program as it continues. If you need to visit the rooms of convenience, please just exit via that door. Immediately to your left, you will see a door which ushers you to the rooms. You can as well walk, standing at that door, straight to your right, and you'll be able to find other quarters which you could utilize as well. We will be having this conversation as well on online platforms. If you're on Facebook, it is Solv-KE, KE being in caps. Facebook is Solv-KE. If you're on Twitter, that is Solv_KE. That's on Twitter. The hashtag, we have 3 of them. We have Solv Kenya. We have hashtag Solv KE. And we have hashtag Growth Simplified. Let me just walk us through that again. So if you're on Facebook, it is Solv-KE in caps. If you're on Twitter, it is Solv_KE. And the hashtags are Solv Kenya as the first one, Solv KE as the second, and Growth Simplified as the third. Let's keep this conversation going on digital platforms as we continue to have our program here. So let's proceed. And a week ago, I was moderating an event in Accra, and the keynote speakers mentioned something which I think is extremely pertinent to what we are doing today. He said the post-COVID sweet spot is that integration between digital and MSMEs. And that is why this conversation this morning is extremely important as we talk about micro, small, and medium-sized ventures, the engine of Kenya's economy, creating 8 out of every 10 jobs, as well as constituting about 30% of this country's GDP. We can definitely not have a conversation about resilience, about moving forward, and we leave MSMEs behind. We have had so much positive disruption from the digital field, and that is why integration of the two is critically important as we chart the way forward for this economy. So I want to start this program, and to kick us off with the opening remarks, let me invite Dan Karuga from Standard Chartered Ventures, where he will be giving us welcoming and ushering in remarks. Dan, please.
Good morning. As Julian mentioned, my name is Dan. I am part of SC Ventures. It is my great privilege to welcome you on behalf of SC Ventures today. We're very delighted to have you on this special occasion, which is the Solv launch. For those of you who are not aware, Solv is our B2B platform that is working to simplify the growth for our SMEs. SMEs play a very major, important role in this economy, but we're all aware of the challenges that they face. So we're very, very much excited about to be part of the solution. And this event is the culmination of enormous collective effort that started 1.5 years ago. That was in April last year, when Kenya was selected to be the next market for scaling our Solv proposition from India. And from that moment, a lot of individuals and partners did a lot of effort and work to make this day a reality. I would like to take this opportunity just to express my appreciation to some of the individuals and the partners that we've been working with for the last 1.5 years, starting with our anchors, financial institutions, including Standard Chartered, our tech partners, including Ceylent, for being strong enablers from day one. I would also like to appreciate my colleagues from SC Ventures, starting with Alex, our global head of SC Ventures, Jiten, global operating partner, Karaoke Ngari, who is the regional CEO for Standard Chartered, and to my colleagues at Solv Kenya, starting with Sheila and Benson. Thank you so much for all your incredible hard work to make this day a reality. We're very excited again to be part of the solution, and we can't wait to scale to the next milestone. I'm not going to talk much because we've got a whole agenda lined up, but I'm now going to take this opportunity to invite my good friend, Bill Ju, who is my colleague from SCB, and one of the greatest champions for Solv, to make some remarks. But before I do that, I just want to say, once again, on behalf of SC Ventures and Solv Kenya, karibuni sana, welcome, have fun, and enjoy. We are great and excited to have you around. Karibu, Bilju.
Morning all, and welcome to Standard Chartered Chiromo. So it's a fabulous setting, so well done to the Solv team. I think it gives me a massive privilege to be here to see Solv come to life, and the work done by this team has just been phenomenal. I came in this morning and I looked around and I saw sort of an observation. There's three sets of people here. The ones in suits are bankers. The ones in jeans do all the hard work. The technology, the innovators, those are the hard. The ones wearing suits without ties, a bit undecided yet. But anyway, it gives me great pleasure to be here today. Standard Chartered, as you know, is present in 59 markets across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. In that, we operate in a broad spectrum of countries across different parts of their development cycle. And we see the challenges facing the countries and to mankind in general, be it climate risk, and be it things like the MSME financing gap. And we do believe there is an opportunity for banks like us to catalyze finance, because what we do really well is we catalyze finance to help solve some of these problems. In June this year, we launched our inaugural sustainability report for Kenya, which is effectively our scorecard on how we're doing against our set targets. We are not perfect. There's room for improvement, but we are making strides. However, one thing is absolutely key, that we can't do it alone, and partnerships matter. So Solv allows us to do two things. One, as we catalyze finance, it's to partner with not just other banks, but to bring in a larger MSME pool to support. And more importantly, it gives us the technology to scale. And that's important. If we have to solve some of these large challenges facing mankind, then scaling and technology are going to be absolutely key for that. So I'm not going to bore you with a long speech about climate risk, but if you'd like to, I'd be happy to discuss that separately with you. However, I just wanted to say thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your support of Solv, and I wish Solv the very, very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much, Biriju. You said the ones in suits are bankers. Wannabe bankers. In a previous life, I was actually in investment banking, and then I decided to cross over to broadcast. Story for another day. Thank you so much for all the pertinent points you've raised, especially around sustainability. When you're having this conversation around ESG and the triple bottom line, is very, very critical. Let me take this opportunity to introduce the global leaders in our presence. And we have Alex Manson, I think is, oh yes, here please. He's here with us, as well as Jiten Arora. Glad to have you in our midst. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us. We truly appreciate this. And actually, our next speaker is Jiten Arora. Please come to the floor. Let's take a listen on what he has to say. Asante.
Is it good? Super. So, Biju, what do you say about people who are still wearing jeans but a jacket? Okay, thank you. Our distinguished guests, partners, and colleagues, a very good morning. I'm extremely pleased to be standing here to witness this significant launch of Solv, a venture that's incubated by SC Ventures, and something that we actually started with a dream of making growth a reality for micro SMEs, medium, small enterprises, small businesses. There's a reason why we decided to pick up this theme. In emerging markets, the missing middle has been a phenomenon that's existed for a long time. The micro SMEs are actually the fulcrum of the GDP in these markets. They contribute significantly, anywhere between 40 to 60% of the GDP, bring in a huge amount of employment, but remain underserved. Now, the bright side of that is that there's a huge opportunity where they could contribute even more to these emerging markets' GDP, as long as we can provide them a platform for growth. Our existing business models, whichever way you refer them, have been inapt in terms of addressing that need. And hence, we decided to go on this journey of launching a completely new business model called Solv. Now, Solv, as a business model, had to be different. It had to be technology-led, completely digital, look at a very different way of evaluating the micro SMEs, not the conventional way of looking at pure balance sheets and rare view, but looking at, in real terms, what their business looks like, what their needs are, and how we can accelerate growth for them. With Solv, we aim to fill that void and bring power of growth to the micro SMEs in emerging markets. With that, we started the journey in India in 2020. It was the first launch. We went in as bankers thinking that solving the financing need is going to be the answer. Actually, not true. First, bringing them into financial inclusion on the commerce side, helping them grow their day-to-day business was more important. And then leading to providing the fuel for that growth, which is financing, was the second-order impact. With that, we launched commerce in India. We brought 250,000 micro SMEs on the platform in the last 6 quarters that we've been live. We finished last year with 100 million GMV on the platform, and we expect to more than double that this year to 280 million GMV on the platform. So there's a very vibrant ecosystem of micro SMEs on the platform in India transacting on a daily basis. With that, we brought in 15 financial partners onto the platform, and now we have this absolutely strong nexus of commerce and financing, which is helping power the growth of these micro SMEs on Solv in India. Taking a cue from the success we've had in India, we are looking at taking it to the next set of the emerging markets, and Kenya was absolutely top of the list. Again, a very vibrant micro SME ecosystem, very digitally savvy, and again, underserved by the existing business models. Thanks to the work that's been done by the team here, namely Dan, Sheila, Benson, Candy, and I could name a lot of them, the hard work has proven that we can actually stand here and launch Solv in Kenya. As we stand, it's ramping up significantly. We've got 28 anchors on the platform. We've got 5 financial partners, and we aim to grow this significantly over the coming years. In addition, we know that we can't stop at pure supply chain finance and financing ecosystems. We are looking at bringing a breadth of new product capabilities to make sure that the growth for the micro SMEs is in an orderly fashion. And we'll provide them access to business tools, capabilities, payment capabilities, wallets on the platform so that we become one conduit for their business as they look at growing their existing volumes. On the back of the success that we've seen with Solv, we were invested, we had led a round, SBI Holdings led the round for us early this year. We raised 40 million, and that's just testament to the problem statement, but more importantly, the opportunity that exists in these emerging markets. With them as a strategic partner on the platform, we look to grow in the markets, but also across the markets and taking Solv into more emerging markets as we go. I'm absolutely convinced this is a win-win for all the players on the ecosystem, whether it is the large multinationals, the wholesalers, the distributors, the anchors, the micro SMEs. That entire financial ecosystem will benefit from the capabilities we brought in Solv. And this will cut across various industries, whether it is retail, whether it is soft lines like apparels, footwear, electronics. This has the capability to cut across multitudes of industries that exist in vibrant economies like Kenya. With that, thank you for your presence here in the morning. I look forward to working with you very closely as we take Solv and make sure that we actually get it to be onwards and upwards in its journey of providing real great solutions to micro SMEs and being a growth partner for them. Thank you so much.
Many, many thanks. That is Jiten Arora giving us some perspective from India and painting for us a picture around the opportunity in emerging markets that this can help us solve. Next in our program, we will focus on testimonials. I remember we used to be told back then that nothing beats a case study and the ability to show that this is actually working. So we have screens, we have this one here, another one there, and two here. So depending on which one is to your convenience, let's watch this case study very briefly before we move on to the next segment. Technical team, please.
When COVID hit in, and with the issue of bars being closed, curfew being at 7 o'clock, a lot of businesses, especially ours, sales went dramatically down. So once the ban was lifted and business started to come up, we had some challenges getting back to where we used to be. In terms of sales, our sales are not that high. But now that Solv has come in, customers are able to access credit, they're able to have more stocks to sell, meaning for us also, we're also able to sell more to them. It's a win-win situation for everybody. You see, it's a volumes game. So the more you sell every day, the more money you make. Your money circulates. So if you close even for just one day, there's a gap in that cycle. And because COVID, you closed for a period of time, a lot of the businesses that we used to interact with closed as well. So there was no working cap. The normal money that used to flow within the business was no longer there.
Solv is a marketplace, and we have a variety of products that we'll offer to SMEs. But first, currently, we started with supply chain financing, which we have been doing with mainly distributors and also manufacturers, where we go to a manufacturer and then they can give us leads on who their distributors are. Then we go meet up with the distributors and onboard them on the Solv platform. So once the anchor or the distributor is already on the Solv platform, so they enable us to be able to reach their customers, and we can get the customers on the Solv platform as well, and we'll be able to finance them with their needs, and they're able to buy more products from the anchor stroke the distributor. So once the customer is already on the Solv platform, we're able to interact with them, and since our first product is the supply chain retailing that we're doing, they'll be able to get the other offers once we have started working with them.
Solv came in mid last month, and we have seen a jump of about 2.5 million shilling wise. I'm hoping we can grow to probably 6 times that amount. That's my ambition, so that we can be where we used to be, or even more.
Thank you so much. Why not a round of applause for the impact that we are seeing Solv having in emerging challenges? As I began mentioning, someone told us the sweet spot post-COVID is MSMEs and digital enablers. Next on stage, let's welcome the Global Head of SC Ventures, Mr. Alex Manson, to come and give us his address.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Speak of underdressed, I felt a little underdressed coming into the room with plenty of bankers wearing suits and ties, but at least you know what this stands for. So it's SC Ventures, so I can associate with them. I think the last time I was wearing a tie was when we were in Japan for the SBI investment, and that was out of deference for local culture. And the one before this was when I was trying to justify what we're doing to the board risk committee of the bank. So I was clearly on the defensive, and clearly I'm not right now. Thank you all for making it. Whatever you're wearing today, it's cool. It's okay. It's okay as long as we get things done. It's great. In fact, before I said anything, my question to Sheila was, who's all going to be around in the audience? Because we speak a lot. Sometimes we like to listen to ourselves speaking, and I was trying to think of saying relevant things to you guys. And so Sheila's answer, well, it's a bit of a mix. We have some bankers, from the banks we work with and could be partners or potential partners. But we also have fintech founders, CEOs, whose capabilities we like, and we work together with them. We have members of the local community, including the Chamber of Commerce and others, and people who care about what we're doing. And so that's quite diverse, right? That's quite diverse. And then I was thinking, essentially, you guys are all partners in this enterprise, right? So it's a very important point because it highlights the diversity of the partners, but also the fact that this is essentially a big partnership. It's an ecosystem, which is a word that is overused sometimes, but I'll get back to this. And Burjo was emphasizing the point of partnerships earlier. It's super important. It's an ecosystem of partnerships, and as such, you're all involved. And so first, a big thank you, not just for being here this morning, but being part of the journey, or being potentially part of the journey, or being interested in what we're doing. That means a lot to us, and importantly, that's the only way we're going to get this done, at scale. There's nothing in SC Ventures that we do alone, right? As a general matter, everything we do is in partnership in one way, shape, or form, and I'd much rather steer 20% of something that is going to be super impactful in society and grow and become a very big thing than 100% of something that is not nearly as impactful and is going nowhere fast. So generally speaking, the ethos is one of partnerships, and so you guys are an integral part to that. So I think that's the first very important point. There's another point which Jiten touched on, and I'll expand on when we reflect on why we did SC Ventures in the first place, which is banks would love to help SMEs, but they're not set up to do it necessarily. The business model is different. A traditional corporate isn't necessarily set up for partnerships or for ecosystems. And so part of what we're doing here is tackling a problem, which is definitely a problem worth addressing, but we're tackling it in a bit of a different way, with a marketplace, with different ways of doing business. In other words, we've adjusted the business model, right? And that is essentially the genesis of building ventures outside of the corporate. If it were exactly the same thing that a bank or a corporate does all day long, then there wouldn't be a point building it outside. But this is fundamentally different, and this is where we started. So taking a step back, right? Why SC Ventures? Why are we building all these things? And I'll give you a quick update on where we are globally and where I think we're going. I've been a banker for a long time. I've been wearing lots of ties and lots of suits, or not, but I've been a banker for 30 years, and a number of client conversations led us to try and do things which we couldn't quite deliver in the context of the conventional corporate organization. Not because the corporate was not good at what it was doing, not because the corporate was not willing, but again because it was not set up to do it. And that was a problem, because as a banker, we sort of went through many cycles, specifically the financial crisis in 2008, and then the sovereign debt crisis, and then conduct-related fines, etc. And I was reflecting a lot on the role that banks play in society. And society means a lot of different things to different people, but I was remarkably focused on world trade. I was focused on supply chains. I was focused on SMEs. I was focused on the forgotten middle that Jiten alluded to, which is on average 60% of the GDP of most of the markets where we operate. And I'm convinced, I'm still convinced that business is a force for good, right? We love to hate merchants. We even, we hate bankers even more than lawyers, which say something. But important. But putting that aside, business is a force for good. It takes merchants to grow. It takes merchants to increase the welfare of individuals in a society. It takes commerce to evolve and do well and ultimately share the wealth. And so there's this societal impact, which I think is very important. And in the context of which financial institutions have a huge role to play, right? And so I was increasingly concerned that when clients were asking us to take care of their ecosystems of suppliers and distributors and MSMEs, and when we as an industry weren't quite doing it, I was increasingly concerned that financial institutions as an industry were letting society down. And there's a very harsh punishment for not fulfilling society's expectations, which is you become irrelevant, right? And so we thought long and hard about how we would go about it. And in our office in transaction banking, within Standard Chartered, there was a whiteboard which Jiten here and a few others, were scribbling on. It was a very messy whiteboard, by the way, because the staff was under explicit instruction to never wipe it off, obviously never clean it up. So without the use of any modern cryptography, we just made sure that nobody could ever make sense of whatever was on the whiteboard. But on that whiteboard, we were thinking of different ways to address the problem of the forgotten middle. How could we tackle it differently? And we made a lot of mistakes, thinking mistakes in that concept. But some of the highlights came up when, as others mentioned again, when we actually asked SMEs, what do you want? What do you need? And they didn't say, give me trade finance at 8%. They didn't say, give me logistics. They didn't say, give me micro insurance. They said simply, help me grow my business. Help me grow my business. And so we adjusted our thinking to how can we help thousands of SMEs grow their business. And we ended up coming to the conclusion that this was not going to happen within a bank. This was going to have to happen outside a bank, and it would enable banks, including but not limited to the one we came from. It would then enable banks to do their thing and add the value they're meant to add to SMEs and ultimately society. But we had to enable it in a bit of a different way. So we pitched an external venture to the CEO of the firm. His name is Bill. And Bill's first reaction was, no, I got to transform the bank, right? And so we said, well, we kind of tried, and it doesn't work for a variety of reasons we can run a PhD on. But it's really hard. It's really hard for structural reasons. But trust us, you allow us to try a little venture here and there, and promise we'll transform not just the bank but banking. which was an arrogant thing to say because nothing ever takes care of itself. But long story short is we set up SC Ventures a little later as a combination of a venture building arm and as well as we deploy capital in the partners that we work with. We actually only invest in partners we work with when it's someone else's company. And also a whole range of internal programs which we initially offered to the bank and now increasingly to our partners, corporate clients of the bank, other partners around entrepreneurship and coaching and skills building. And the combination of these things is what we believe is going to allow us to reinvent banking. We call this rewiring the DNA in banking. In the context of financial institutions' impact on society, and the fact that we work inside corporate organizations as well as outside building ventures is a very powerful combination with flows of information, people, and to some extent capital, which is transformationally, we think, potentially very impactful. Fast forward 4 years. At this point, we're reporting ourselves as an independent financial unit of the bank. We've deployed approximately $1 billion US, which is split between a couple of digital banks, one in Hong Kong, one in Singapore, which we incubated, and the retail bank of Standard Chartered is managing these organizations. They're just doing great at the moment and scaling. We invested about 250 million in minority investments in the partners we work with. Here we behave like financial investors, but with a mindset of partnership. Our money wouldn't be that valuable if it weren't for the fact that we really want to work together with these companies and help them scale and scale together and change the industry together. So they're technological capabilities that we love, we think are relevant, and we invest in that. And then we've built some 30 ventures, right? Of which 10 plus are in the public domain, scaling, and Solv is obviously one of them. Another 10 are right on the heels of the first 10, sort of testing, getting ready to go to market. And another 10 are more nascent, and there we always expect a bit of a churn, but they're essentially building prototypes and MVPs and waiting to see if they'll get support to get to the next level. So across what we're doing in digital banks, in minority investments, and in the ventures, it's become a material operation. It's not huge. It's very nascent. It's only been 4 years, but we are obviously convinced that it can be not only very good business, but importantly, it will be very good business as a result of addressing really important problems, reconciling banking and societal expectations of banking and finance, generally speaking, and there's no question that SMEs and addressing the problems in trade, supply chains, SMEs, generally speaking, is a huge part of this. Maybe a last word on Kenya. We're located. I live in Singapore. We're headquartered there operationally as a bank. We're a UK bank, but really we run the businesses from Singapore for Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. So we were present in Singapore on day one. We've always had a presence in Hong Kong and China. We started Solv in India, as I mentioned, and we have a small office in London. Nairobi was the first lab outside of these locations, which we set up in 2019, if I recall correctly, maybe a little earlier, 2018. Kennedy, correct me if I'm wrong. So part of me was thinking, Kenya was the right place to come and experiment with, capture the vibrancy of the African market, where we have a mix of very different things, right? One is the urgency of needs. Two is the dynamics in the population, the level of digital adoption, the entrepreneurialism which we've seen in this part of the world, the effervescence of innovation, technological innovation, but innovation more generally speaking, which really lends itself to experiment with different business models and have a very meaningful impact relatively quickly. So we started in Kenya, and at this point we have obviously Solv, which we're talking about today, but another 3 ventures in the works. and a couple of other things down the line, which we're also very excited about, but are just more nascent. So I expect that we'll continue to grow here. I'll expect that we'll try and continue and have an impact. And again, it goes back to the purpose and why we're doing this in the first place, which is as we do good things and as we help people solve real problems, I'm convinced it'll be very good for everyone involved and business worth doing. I'll wrap up here, but again, before I do this, thank you for being part of this. The fact you're attending this breakfast and listening to perhaps too many speeches, including mine, is that you're part of this. You're partners in a super important journey. We don't take that for granted, and we're incredibly excited about the road ahead and all the good things we'll be doing for the ecosystem here and beyond. So thank you for being here, but also thank you for being part of this. And let's take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a powerful presentation, and to imagine it was off the cuff. That's extremely brilliant. 3 quick takeaways. I'd rather own 20% of something which is impactful than 100% of something which actually has no impact. The third one is launch something which transforms not just the bank, Standard Chartered, but the entire banking sector. Really like that. We will now listen to the Group CEO of Standard Chartered Bank, Mr. Bill Winters, who's joining us via video link. Are we ready, technical team? Let's listen in.
I'm delighted to be with you here today to participate in the launch of Solv Kenya. This is a project that's near and dear to my heart. I visited with the team recently in Nairobi and am delighted to see the progress that we've made in creating a business-to-business platform that's designed to serve that underserved critical component of the Kenyan economy, which is the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. We know that it's the bulk of the economic impetus in the country, it's the bulk of employment, the bulk of the likely growth, the bulk of the entrepreneurism that has and will continue to drive the Kenyan economy. But it's underserved by conventional financial services. So we set up this platform, which is a B2B marketplace that will bring both traditional and non-traditional forms of finance, so that the banking system and the non-bank finance sector, to bring them in an easy, digestible, straightforward way of providing these services through to the MSMEs who are so much in need of these incremental financing sources. We're doing this with a cutting-edge and state-of-the-art financial platform, which we rolled out in an earlier version in India quite successfully, and we see fantastic opportunities to deploy this technology and this platform into the absolutely critical Kenyan market, where Standard Chartered has been operating for well over 100 years, very happily and very successfully. So I met with our team, our Solv team, in Nairobi just a couple of weeks ago. I found it extremely exciting, both because of what we can do for the MSMEs, but also what we can do for some of the larger corporations who will be anchors on this platform. So they'll provide some of the credit underpinning for a really valuable and differentiated supply chain financing proposition that will get desperately needed capital into the hands of these MSMEs at a reasonable price that will allow them to continue to grow and create that business. But it's not just the supply chain finance proposition that's differentiated here. What we'll be creating is a marketplace that will also allow for e-commerce services, for the provision of other professional services, to basically allow these small businesses to pick and choose from a menu of both financing and non-financing products and services to help grow their business in a way that gives them confidence that they're accessing appropriate suppliers that can offer the best products and services, and can do that with an understanding of their business, including who their key suppliers are, and obviously leveraging those supplier relationships. So I'd like to take this opportunity both to congratulate the Solv Kenya team for all they've accomplished so far, wish you the very best of luck on this launch and as you continue to grow the business, and very importantly to thank all of our partners who have been critical to the development of our capabilities in Solv Kenya, who have been great partners for Standard Chartered Bank as we build and roll out this set of products and services. I know that we're creating a valuable proposition for our customers, as well as our partners, and I wish you all the very best with the launch and beyond. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Those are remarks from Mr. Bill Winters, Group CEO, Standard Chartered Bank. We appreciate creating time to be with us this morning. Let me invite Dr. Eric Ruto, Vice President, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to come and speak to us. Karibu.
Thank you very much, our moderator. And I want to be classical. I know it has been said that the guys who wear suits and ties are most likely bankers. Maybe I'd like to give a caveat that I wear two hats. I'm a doctor. And if you did mathematics, doctor squared. I'm a doctor of business and also a doctor of medicine. I come from Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'm the National Vice President. And here today, I have come with a number of members of the chamber. Maybe I can quickly ask them to stand so that I can introduce them to the panelists or the delegates who are here. Yeah, we have our director, Mushiri, who is our director for youth and technical and vocational training. Thank you very much, and our link to this event today. And we have Mr. Ronald Meru. And Alex, I know you say that it's good to know him. He's our director at Nairobi Chamber, where 60% of our economy sits, so he's a very important person to know. Equally also, he's the chair of Muthaiga Golf Club. And you remember, maybe you sit down. You remember, Alex, that, you remember, Ronald, that Alex was saying you are a very important person to know. Because, you know, golfers know how to drive balls. They know how to putt balls. But my director here, who is not a golfer, was telling me knows how to touch balls. But here as a National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we are very happy to be here. Before COVID, our presence here today is very purposeful. I did travel across 36 counties, having an engagement with businesses. And one of the most critical asks of the businesses or the small SMEs in Kenya was access to affordable credit. We've come as Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, we sat down, we did consult with one of the financial institutions, and they did tell us, out of 10 SMEs that walk into a bank, I'm sure Standard Chartered, you have those statistics, that 60% of them fail. So there's a success rate of 40% of SMEs who want credit. So what happens to these 60%? They'll definitely go into the other informal financial markets, such as Shylocks. And within a period of 5 years, the statistics we have from our Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is that on the 5th birthday, only 10% of SMEs see to celebrate their 5th birthday. And the main reason is access to affordable credit. So therefore, as Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, we did partner with one of the organizations, MasterCard Foundation, during COVID for post-COVID recovery. And we were advanced credit that we were giving. It was a ticket size between 1,000 to 30,000. And I want to give you an example of a business lady, approximately 40 kilometers from here in Lari. During COVID, she was able to she consumed actually total capital of her business. She used to bring vegetables to Nairobi, but we did advance her 5,000 shillings, another 10,000, another 30,000, and by the end of 7 months, she was able to afford to have a whole pickup, or approximately 1 ton of vegetables to Nairobi, and that livelihood was able to be rebuilt again. So as Kenya Chamber, we are purposeful here today. We promise to provide you the network. We have a network of 49,000 members across the country. 1,000 of those members are Standard Chartered. They are large corporations, but 98%, which is 48,000, are micro, small, and medium enterprises. We definitely know in Kenya, the SMEs contribute approximately 40% of the economy, 80% of the labor force in this country. That's a very important aspect for us to concentrate. So therefore, I want to congratulate today Solv, which is going to solve one of our biggest problems as a business community in terms of access to credit. So therefore, we are able to provide you with a countrywide network of businesses for you to be able to advance digital credit. Just to underscore the size of the market, half year, somewhere in June, there is a very famous product. I don't know whether to say successful or famous. Forgive me for not having the right words. Fuliza is famous. Is it famous or successful? Both. So it's famous and successful, so that I stay in the middle. By June this year, they had advanced 503 billion Kenya shillings to 7 million Kenyans. Of course, the 7 million Kenyans might not be in business, but quite substantial of those people who had access credit through Fuliza are businesses. We have 7.4 million SMEs in Kenya. So the size of the market is huge. We have had the experience of Fuliza. So therefore, the guys who've launched here, SC Ventures here in Kenya, Evolve, I hope that in the next maybe 1 year, as we commemorate another 1 year down the line, of course through the network of the chamber, we have that network, that we could be talking of those figures of billions in terms of access to credit to the lowest of the pyramid. And I'm very happy that our current government is looking at the bottom-up model, where it's going to address the 7.4 million SMEs. As Kenya Chamber, we want to partner with you. We have a product. We are a member of the Global International Chamber of Commerce, and we are already in partnership with the International Chamber of Commerce of Paris. They have launched this product in Latin America. They've launched in Turkey, and they're coming to Kenya in Q1 of 2023. It's almost a similar product, but it comes with some credit guarantees. So it looks like we already have a partner who we shall be ready to go to bed and have more businesses come out of that bed. So therefore, as I close, Kenya Chamber, you're welcome. You're welcome to be part of us to help you grow your business. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ruto, for those remarks and giving us some very good perspective on the MSME segment in the Kenyan economy. We want to transition into a panel discussion, and as we do that, as I invite the team at the back to help me get the seats on set, let me just sample some of the thoughts we are getting online as far as this is concerned. Thank you. I'd like to appreciate Asante Financial Services Group. Where are you seated? Yes, they have actually posted a tweet here, Team Asante Group, at the Solv launch happening now. We are excited to be one of the financial partners on the Solv Kenya digital platform. Thank you so much. There's a gentleman on Facebook stating, a delight to see solutions being crafted for micro, small, and medium-sized business ventures. We need more information on how we can be part of this. Let me just speak one last comment here from Twitter. And this lady says, an exciting beginning. We wait to see what's in the pipeline in terms of subsequent ventures. And it was already mentioned that we do have a solid pipeline coming on board. So let me, in the interest of time, let me introduce my panelists who will be joining me on set. Sheila Kimani-Omukuba, that is CEO Solv Kenya. I'd like to invite Mbogwa Njihia, Venture Scout and Tech Enthusiast. I'd like to invite Akshay Grover, Group CEO of Cellulant, as well as Jiten Arora, who is from SC Ventures. Welcome on set, gentlemen and lady. We shall be miking them shortly, and then we continue with our conversation. As we get the miking done, let me just speak some more thoughts here. There's a gentleman on Twitter saying this is a delight to see Solv Kenya being launched. Let us again know how we can be part of this. I mean, there's so much appetite outside there. We clearly can't wait to be ready and going with this. Another one here saying that exciting to see digital solutions being advanced towards the micro, small, and medium-sized segment. This is indeed a very risky segment, so we are happy to see this. Speaking to the elements of the need to de-risk the ventures within this space. And a few other thoughts coming in here as we conclude the exercise on stage. Someone saying, what a delight again to see this. Happy to be part of it. They didn't leave their details there. And one final comment here stating that this is wonderful. Let's be part of this as Kenya, as we transform our economy. Well, they've put their bottom up, but this is not a political arena, so I shall leave it at that. Are we ready? Yes, it looks like we're ready. So we want to just advance our conversation this morning as far as supporting MSMEs is concerned, digital solutions, and what we can do about this. Let me start with the question to Jiten Arora. So Jiten, SC Ventures, backed by Standard Chartered Group, was established to deal with innovations, ventures, and fintech investments around the MSME space. Why MSMEs?
I hope you can hear me. Is this working?
Yes, we can. Maybe just raise the volume a bit. Yeah.
Excellent. So I think some of that was answered in the initial statement I made. Why MSMEs? I'll bring it back the point that we were talking about the missing middle, right? Why do we call it the missing middle? So if you look at emerging markets, you can clearly see two ends of the spectrum. You got large corporates, and you've got very small businesses. And there's nothing in the middle, right? If you compare that to the developed markets, what you'll see is a real good curve of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large businesses, and then multinationals. Right? That piece that's missing in the middle is where the micro SMEs need to help grow into, right? And that growth is very important. If you look at any of the emerging markets with their ambition of growing their economies, it will come if we can unleash the power of the micro SMEs in their contribution to the GDP, in their contribution to commerce, in their reach out to the consumer base that we have, and be able to bring a very differentiated offering. It is very important to actually develop business models that advance the micro SMEs and fill that missing middle void, which is why the focus on missing middle. I think it is said that their contribution to the GDP, if it's 40%, and if these GDPs have to grow at 7-8%, their contribution has to be multiple times of that GDP to fuel that growth. Hence, it is imperative that we focus on that missing middle and the micro SMEs and help them fill that void by going into that space, which is why simplifying growth for the micro SMEs is extremely important.
Thank you so much, Jiten, for your introductory thoughts. Let me come to Sheila right on my left here. So Sheila, as Solv Kenya CEO, which is incubated under SC Ventures, what has been the experience of working with MSMEs in Kenya so far? What seems to afflict their sustainability most?
All right, thanks for the question. What's been our experience? I think we're all interacting with SMEs every day, and they fix a big portion of our lives. And as you know, there are 83% of the businesses in Kenya, of which they employ about 15 million people. So as we interact with them, and they're contributing 30% of our GDP, we do realize that they actually do need our support. And the three main areas, that afflict their sustainability is, first, they lack access to credit. So the normal channels that we have that are giving us, funding for these SMEs, you'll find that actually out of 10 applications, 70% of them get declined. And what happens to these 70%? We end up going to friends, family, and we ask for help. But is that really the solution? I know we are a community-based, country, but at a particular point, we all have pressures. So then we need, people like Solv, and what we're doing is providing that access. The other challenge that, the SMEs, are facing and causing this, lack of sustainability is access to market. You find that, you're so restricted in terms of how you can access, regional markets. So you find that the business has to deal with what is around them, and then it becomes saturated, they can grow their businesses. The third thing is they have a lot of manual business operations processes. And you find that most of these SMEs are actually sole proprietors and partnerships. What does that mean? They don't have the structures to actually be able to support them to scale. So if I'm doing my accounting, it's on an Excel. If I'm trying to hire, it's word of mouth. I don't have access to do that. So what is Solv trying to do? We want to fix that. We want to be able to give them access to credit, access to new markets, and as well service the market that they have. And then the third bit is what support can we give them? And that is basically your business operational processes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me come to Akshay, and speaking of emerging technology, how does emerging tech fit in creating an inclusive ecosystem for MSMEs, and how does it help in building financial inclusion?
Yeah, I think emerging tech, one of the reasons why SME, and there are many reasons, but let me focus on only one or two areas, why SME financing has not been that rampant in these markets is lack of data. And lack of data is about, is there enough data about the person or the business that is borrowing available? And on what basis does a credit provider provide a loan? What is the security of that loan? What is the collectability of that loan? Yeah, is there a framework in law which enables people to be blacklisted for further loans, etc.? Because there are always going to be bad actors. So I think there's a whole piece around that. The piece where I feel technology can play a role is that access to data. So as Cellulant, for example, one of the key things we're trying to do is build enough data about the merchants that are transacting on our platform. So today, there are thousands of merchants who are transacting, collecting, whose customers are transacting and collecting on a daily basis, and we're able to use that and process that in a machine learning or an AI tool, which then says, hey, this is a merchant to whom you can lend, its credit scored XYZ, somebody else's credit scored ABC, and that is an extremely important element of being able to disburse credit. The second piece, which is now that I've disbursed the credit, how do I collect? How do I collect? And that's another problem area. Do you wait for people as banks and financial institutions to write checks to you to repay the loan on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? Or is there a way of auto debiting? And you come to some unique areas in Kenya and you realize that auto debit frameworks are not effectively placed in all banks. So when you think about the solution, these are all components from a technology standpoint that we want to solve for. And once you solve for the problem statement, then disbursing credit becomes easier, and therefore the ability to reach people becomes easier.
All right. Data clearly playing a very important role as far as credit access is concerned. Let's now move to the venture scout in our midst. And Jihia, you've had the experience of running businesses, specifically leveraging tech. How is technology helping nascent MSMEs in Kenya overcome their growth challenges?
Great question. I think when talking about business, it's always about two things. One, discoverability and distribution. So most SMEs for the recent past have been unable to actually unlock those two in a way that makes sense for them. But now with the advent of technology, what we're seeing, whether you look at tech as social media or enablement through platforms like what Action, Esteem, and Cellulant are building, is that one, you drive discoverability, and just look at the offline process in any marketplace. If you're going to Wakulima or Sokomjinga, you're looking at where do I get the best cabbages? It's about discoverability. So now there are tools that tell you the lady at the corner there gives the freshest cabbages, and probably that's where you need to go to. So there's already sort of a ranking system already there. So now tech is enabling these SMEs to position themselves there. And we used to call it word of mouth. Now it's word of mouse, right? And mouse is more digital in the sense that not everyone has a computer, but now most people have a mobile phone. Now, two comes to distribution. So yes, I sit out in Lavington, and there's the lady at Marikiti who gives the best cabbages. So how does she get access to distribute those best cabbages to me sitting here? They're not enabled sufficiently. If they have Mtuawa and Nduthi, then what happens is she calls that guy and say, Akshay, I need you to dash to Lavington quickly, but Akshay's got a gig. He's somewhere in Githurai delivering another package for someone else. But then technology comes and stitches that together and says, you know what? We are democratizing both distribution and discoverability in a way that makes sense so that all these 7.5 million people essentially have the same access to the customer as Coca-Cola. So we are now seeing that tech is becoming the enabler or just leveling that playing field in a way that really, really matters.
Very, very good cases in point given there. Let me come to Jiten once again. So Solv India has been in operation since 2020. What are the key learnings from India? I know you might have touched on this earlier, that can be used to reduce the learning curve for Solv Kenya as well as other markets in the pipeline.
Thank you. Before I start, I like the connotation of the cabbages, discoverability, and helping farmers come on board. I think our next launch of the venture is probably going to address that problem. You should speak to Chero around what she's doing in that space. Chero, that's a plug for you. I'll claim it later, all right? Coming to the point around Solv India. So it is quite natural for that question to arise because Solv India was the first to the market, right? But I just want to be very clear in my understanding that we actually are learning from each market. And as we've gone through this process, actually, some of the things we are doing in Solv Kenya have been a learning point for Solv India too. So what that means is that this footprint of MSMEs in the emerging markets, while being quite diverse because of the geographies they operate in, the problem statements are actually quite consistent, right? And that consistency of problem statement helps us to make capabilities like Solv be ubiquitous in terms of the markets and bring the product tech stacks that can actually work across multiple markets. In India specifically, one of the first things we realized was the mention around financial inclusion is a real big buzzword. And by financial inclusion, generally it means access to financing, right? The question really was, is that the first order need of the micro SMEs or a second order need of the micro SMEs? When we met and actually spoke to a lot of micro SMEs, I think Alex alluded to that, their statement was, help us grow. We are ambitious. We are enterprising businesses. We like to see growth. We like to employ more people, and we like to contribute a lot more to the GDP, but help us grow. We started piecing that onion together and said, what will help micro SMEs grow? And as we started answering that question, what we realized was, one, they're not treated as a counterparty that can be trusted. So creating trust across micro SMEs is the first foremost thing we need to attack. And we started using a lot of data, to Akshay's point, to be able to create the micro SMEs onto a platform to be a trusted counterparty in the commerce transaction. As soon as you explain them to be trusted counterparty, there's more reach out for them in terms of the products and the SKUs that they can offer. As they start growing their business, they suddenly need more working capital. That's where financing comes in. So the financial inclusion is actually about inclusion in the commerce and then providing financing, right? And that needs to be understood, and that's the learning that we went through. The other thing we went through is that data is actually quite an interesting way of unlocking the credibility of a micro SME. But that data is not readily available in the way we operate in existing business models. Because there are no balance sheets, there are no financial ratios, there's no gearing ratios, right? It is real-time data. That data sits on their mobile devices, that data sits in their transactions, that data sits in their goods and service taxes, that data sits disparate. So having a capability to be able to look at that data, consume that data, synthesize it, create models with those data, which actually then improve the creditworthiness of the micro SME is important. So we spent a lot of effort, not just building a digital marketplace, but actually enabling the digital marketplace by building our own credit scoring model, which is called Solv Score, creating our own KYC models, which are able to capture that data and improve the trust with the counterparties by giving them a score that actually they can rely on and become a counterparty that a lot of people would want to do commerce with. That is a learning. That learning has actually come to Kenya as part of the project, but something we're learning in Kenya, which we're taking back to India, which is also very interesting, is that actually when you look at what we've done in Kenya in terms of ramp up in supply chains, there's a lot of information that we can actually provide back to the anchors. So the anchors who we believe are actually part of the distribution where we're helping the micro SMEs, the micro SMEs are actually helping the anchors. Because from the micro SME data, we can now provide to anchors information around what's your fast moving good, what's slow moving, what's the daily pickup rate, which consumer are using, which demographic of the consumers are using. That's a powerful data available to the anchors that was not available before. We are now enabling that through AI back to the anchors.
Very, very critical lessons.
One of the things which we've been talking about is availability of finance, and I always feel like availability of finance is very closely linked to cost of finance. Yeah. And people say cost comes later because it's not available. The question is, if it's available and it's at a particular cost, which is so insane that it's not accessible even if you want to access it, right? Is the other question that we have to solve for, which this data has to solve for. I heard some comments earlier from Dr. Ruto saying, 500 billion shillings have been lent out by Fuliza. The fact of the matter is Fuliza is a 1% per day interest loan. I mean, what kind of SME financing is that? The guy is not even able to, whatever the guy earns, you're just going to rip it off him and maybe 2x that. So what's the point of giving him that finance anyway? You're just putting him in a debt trap, right? So the question is, what are we going to do to solve for cost of finance? That is the question, which I think is staring at us. And that is very closely interlinked to what Jiten is saying, of saying data. Because when you talk about cost of finance, when you typically go in slightly more developed markets, you find there is differentiation on cost of finance. A type of customer will get a lower cost of finance, B type of customer gets a slightly higher cost of finance, and C type of customer gets another higher. And that represents the risk ratio for these people. And we're not able to differentiate that. So while we celebrate that M-Pesa has been able to give out 500 billion shillings of loans, I would say that's actually very easy to do, because what you're doing is you're earning 360% interest. And now if 30% of your loans went bad, you just write it off. It doesn't really matter, because on $100, you made $260. Yeah, you write off the 100, you're still net 160, right? I don't know how scalable is that model and at what point that model actually breaks. So it's a great start point, but it's definitely not the place where I think, at least as a business, we strive to go towards.
Thank you, actually, for that intervention on risk pricing. Let me come to Sheila as we get to the tail end of this. So why is Solv Kenya confident that it can simplify and accelerate growth of SMEs in the country where many have found it challenging?
All right, good question. I think the main differentiator about the products that we're taking to market is we're building them with the end customer in mind. And who's our end customer? It's the SME. How are we doing that internally? So first, we'll do some research and find out, is it a need? Is it something that we can solve for? And then thereafter, we bring in the critical partners, and this is the anchors, the SMEs, again, very dependent on the product that we're taking to market. So we involve them from the very beginning. We build the product, work with them, test it, and then take it to market. The other thing that we're very clear on is we want to participate in the SDG goals. And it's one, through Solv Kenya, we're going to make sure that there's financial literacy. There needs to be financial inclusion, and most importantly, building sustainable SMEs. And through this journey, we'll end up being the one-stop shop for SMEs in this country. And it ties back to the 3 pillars that we have at Solv Kenya. So one is the financial services, second is business services, and eventually a marketplace in terms of the e-commerce, which we can then facilitate. So that is what makes us different and why I think we will do it different. And so far, the success that we've had on the product, that is how we built it, and we've started solving for that. So because of that, bearing in mind that we're building products that the SMEs need, we believe we will be sustainable also as a business and be able to, break the norm that, that they come on board and then they die. So that's what makes us different. And then with the support of SC Ventures, we've taken about 18 months to actually get to this day. What does that mean? We take our time in the lab, we properly look at what is needed, we review the governance, and that's what makes us different with most fintechs, because our governance processes are solid. And then thereafter, we use technologies that ensure that, these platforms that we're building are secure. So we will involve artificial intelligence as well as machine learning as we take these products to market. And as when we get into the space we are performing in the e-commerce space, then we ensure that we also have blockchain in there. So we're creating trusted environments, products that have been tested before we actually open it to market. And now we are ready to be in the market. Thanks.
Thank you. Let me come to Nje here. So Kenya recently launched the 5-year digital payment strategy. How do you see that impacting adoption of digital operations by businesses beyond payments into other facets?
Maybe not saying beyond payments, because payments underpins anything business. I mean, you're in business. Let me see. How do I put this? You don't start the foundation. You start the business that, when successful, then funds the foundation, right? So we're in business to make money. So it's all still centered around payments. And I think when looking at the SME space, it's about the velocity of those transactions. The biggest pain point for SMEs has been being invoice rich and cash poor. Like I've got these POs from, the many different companies worth 10 million. But in the bank, I'm being hounded by the very same financial institution. I'm being hounded for the facility I took, yet they've got visibility here. So in that payment strategy, if we can increase the velocity of these payments and say that SME A has provided a service, and Sheila mentioned blockchain, and I think sometimes we need to abstract the tech from the mamamboga, having it work like magic. I supplied something, and because Solv has a visibility across this thing, it actually just fast tracks that payment out, and that velocity of cash is actually what settles the entire marketplace. And the only way that strategy will feed marketplaces like this and make them solid is by driving that trust. I don't know you, but because you're on the platform, I trust the platform that when I deliver, then I'm sorted. So I think that would be a nice way to summarize it, instead of sometimes these strategy documents are big and obtuse. Well, when you ask the SME what they want, just get me paid faster, because if you pay me faster, I pay him faster, and he pays the other person faster, and everyone's happy.
Can I chime in?
Please.
I would say the question is, you see, when you look at Kenya versus the rest of the countries in Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, Tanzania, Uganda, etc., etc., one of the key things that can drive innovation and adoption of innovative technologies is reducing the power of monopoly. And I'm not sure what we're doing and how much we're doing about that. Because at the end of the day, when you look at these Harvard Business School case studies, you find M-Pesa is on the Harvard Business School case studies for the most innovative. And that is true, actually. In 2008, it was an extremely innovative business and a platform, and what it did to Kenya's economy, I don't think has been replicated anywhere in the world. But now we've come to 10 years past that. And now the question you have to ask yourself is, like, when I go to markets, when you go to a country like Zambia, which is, 1/5 the GDP of Kenya, there's more innovation on financial technology in Zambia than there is in Kenya. Not because they're not being innovated here. What I mean by innovation is innovation delivered to the customer. Innovation delivered to the customer. Kenya could still be a hub for developing that innovation today, because we've created a lot of technology capable people here. There's a lot of tech talent here. A lot of technology companies come to Kenya, set up the base. So there's a lot of technology talent available here. We are a Kenyan business. But when we think of launching a solution or a new product, we very often choose markets outside of Kenya. And the reason is the monopolistic environment doesn't permit you, only gives you so much room for innovation. So you can innovate in this little shell, but you can't go beyond the shell. And I would have liked to see a lot more on that pathway of 5 years to say, how am I going to address that? Today, there are positive moves happening in that direction, which is very welcome. I like the fact that now when I go to a store, I see 3 logos: Airtel, M-Pesa, Telcom. It's a good step move towards kind of addressing that challenge. It's a good move to hear that the Central Bank of Kenya is pushing for segregation of telecom and the mobile money licenses. It's a good move, but I wish I would see more of this, and maybe that's what I'm alluding to in the 5-year roadmap.
Thank you for that. And actually, let me just stay with you because I had one final question for you. In terms of how do you assess the level of readiness within the MSME space for all this digital revolution that we are seeing? Granted, it will change from a case-to-case basis, but by and large, what are your thoughts there, actually?
I think MSMEs are ready to adopt everything that enables their business. If you go and talk to an MSE today and tell him that I want you to start using this smartphone application, and if he's never seen a smartphone, hypothetically in his life, yeah, and you tell him that when you do this, you are going to get credit at not at 30% per month, but you're going to get credit at 5% per month, he will do everything in the universe to deliver, to make it happen, right? And the advantage is that the level of literacy in Kenya is so high, right? Anyway, so that's such a big advantage that this country has, that people are overall, the level of literacy is so high that adoption of technology is going to be much, much, much more easier than many other parts of the world. So I would say they are ready. The question is, what can we give them to make them adopt that?
And I think, if I could just add, one of the things we need to remember that we've all, I'm glad we're forgetting it, that there was something called as COVID, and I'm glad it's over. But the fact that there was one silver lining with that is it induced a lot of digital behavior. Because of the lockdowns, because of the way businesses got disrupted, the digital adoption really went up in all markets. And we saw that in front of our eyes in a lot of emerging markets. So I think these economies now are absolutely digitally ready. And to Akshay's point, how do you make it intuitive? And how do you make it real impactful for their businesses is something for us to work on. But they're ready.
Thank you for that. I would like to open the floor for questions. Do we have roving mics around? Yes, we do. So as we get those ones, please just raise your hand, introduce yourself, and keep your question very brief so that we have enough time to have circulation of questions here. Maybe as we get ready for the first one, there's a question online which I think will go to Sheila, and it was that how does an MSME get viable for inclusion into the Solv platform? Essentially, someone is asking, how can I be part of this?
Okay. So for the current product that we have, which is the stock finance, supply chain finance, is you need to speak to your supplier. We are also engaging suppliers and distributors, so basically your anchors, and it's both multinationals as well as local corporates. And we are basically going to them and telling them we have this solution that will help you to support the SMEs that actually push your product in market. So then they get nominated, they actually get onto our platform. These are the suppliers that I'm talking about, and then they upload a list of the SMEs that they work with, and then they get notifications informing them that they've been nominated to participate on the Solv platform by a particular supplier or distributor. Thereafter, we have very, very light KYC, and the reason for that is because we are not a bank. We're basically a tech firm that is there to support SMEs. So we'll ask for minimal documentation. It comes in, we verify this. Like I said, we are creating a trusted environment. And then thereafter, we front these SMEs to the financial institutions that are on the platform for them to review you and do the underwriting. And what we front is what Jiten spoke to, the Solv score. So we create a profile that is then presented with all this information about the SME. And then the financial institution will go in and assign a limit to you. And it will be, let's say we have 10 financial institutions on the platform, maybe 5 you are eligible to get financing from. And it becomes a live limit. What does that mean? Every time you need to purchase your stock, within 3 minutes, the money moves from the financial institution that's financing you and credits the distributor, and you immediately get your stock. Be it at midnight, be it at 7 in the morning, be it at 4 p.m., that's the convenience that we bring, and that's how you participate on the Solv platform.
All right. Before I take another question online, is there any question on the floor here? Just raise your hand, introduce yourself, shoot your question. Maybe let me take a second one online. This is an interesting question. Well, it still goes to you. We've had a very dark history with the credit blacklisting on CRBs. Is this another avenue where if I come in, I could be adversely listed?
Well, you will not be adversely listed. I mean, that is our intent. By the time you get to a point of default, we'll work what we can to ensure that you do not default. And right now, to be very honest, our non-performing loans is less than 1%. So the financial institutions are actually finding pleasure by the convenience that we avail to them. So Solv is not out there to get you listed on the reference bureau. We have mechanisms, and we work with the financial institutions to ensure that you don't get into that default environment. Yeah.
All right. Any questions we have on the floor? I want to be sure I'm looking at every side before I keep taking questions from online.
Julian, maybe
yes, please.
Some feedback as well. I think one of the things that I hope this will drive is to reduce resistance or the friction of many SMEs in sharing their data. My personal experience working with, say, different accelerators is I find many SMEs in Kenya are very, they're totally scared about saying, why do I need to give you my transaction data, even if the promise is that you're going to help finance trade. And it may come from maybe someone had a really bad experience, but you need to kind of reduce that friction, because and we keep talking about financial inclusion. For me, it's more about financial visibility. Because these guys move crazy volumes, right? It's just that we don't know or we don't see. And if you can bridge that trust gap by whether it's Solv or maybe other marketplaces that may come up, then we'll see a collective lift. And some of the numbers that we talk about when thinking about growth might actually change. So for the SMEs, it's need to be more open about sharing your numbers, because that has a direct line into how you qualify and maybe how all the fancy tech stuff that we talk about, the AI, the ML, etc., can benefit you more.
And maybe a quick write-up to that point, and maybe I can bring in Akshay here. Someone is asking on Twitter that in this age where we have the Data Protection Act now in Kenya, how do we ensure that the data that digital payment providers have is not misused?
I think there is, as rightly pointed out, there's a law. So we all need to follow the compliance under that law. But I think in general, the global best practice here is that the customer consents to sharing the data. It's sort of very much similar to what today you do on Play Store when you download your applications and use application. And so if you want to be a beneficiary of that, then you need to accept that you are open to sharing that data. Now, there might be limitations after you've shared that data as to how the service provider can use that data. Yeah. And again, that goes back to the law specific to a particular country or jurisdiction.
Okay. Jiten, there's a question here. Someone is asking, could we be told more about the experience of India and what was the level of investor readiness by MSMEs in that country when it was being piloted? I'd imagine when the product was being piloted in India.
And you said investor readiness?
Yes. I think it's speaking to the issue of having your data, your books in good standing so that your data can be accessed and your credit profiling is done.
Okay. So there is an advantage to India. And the advantage to India is that actually India has made leaps and bounds in terms of the availability of digital data, right? And if there was one learning, coming back to your earlier question to me, and I take it beyond Solv, that's where the economies and especially the regulators can actually work with each other. So if I look at the amount of transparency that's been created in India in terms of the availability of data, whether that's because they've made the entire litigation data available online, the entire income tax return data available online, the entire goods and services tax data available online, that has just proven to be a huge differentiator in India for the micro SMEs, because now you're not going to the micro SMEs and saying, give me your data. I can actually access your data from global websites or from the country websites, right? That has made a big difference. That said, from our learnings and working with the micro SMEs, and I do want to touch upon a couple of points you raised, this is probably where the point around partnerships become very important. And this is not about just financial inclusion, it's also about financial literacy. It's about education. It's about creating that trust that that data that you're providing is actually going to be used to make sure we can actually get you to be creditworthy and get you the right kind of deal that you need in terms of pricing points, right? The risk return reward stacks up if the availability of data creates a lot more creditworthiness around the micro SMEs. So data is key, availability of data is key, but getting access to that data has always been difficult in the emerging markets. And if we can start unlocking that a lot more in working in partnerships with the ecosystem, which includes the regulators, which includes the credit bureaus, you'll make life a lot more easier for the micro SMEs.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions before I pick some more from the online platform? There's a question here, please. Yes.
Jumbo, good morning. So my name is Russell. I'm looking into payments into Lafarge, which is a microfinance. So based on Solv Kenya, I mean, we've had very good things, right? And it's good. I'll just build a context. Just give me some leverage, okay? Now, Stanchart is in the financial industry, and we all know that there's been a lot of talk about financial industry being disrupted, okay? But the talk has been there for over 10 years now. So and I think we are not quite being disrupted because there's been a lot of talk about collaboration, right? In other industries like the retail, I don't see anyone pushing Amazon, for example, to collaborate with Walmart and so on and so forth. Now, given that Solv Kenya is being launched, okay, I'm sure there'll be some aspect of collaboration within that platform with even other digital players in the same digital ecosystem. So I just want to ask Sheila, what's your outlook in how collaboration will pan out within Solv Kenya? And for most of us who want to collaborate, how then can we assist you to collaborate better? So to speak, what's your ideal collaborator going forward? And is there a process to it? And maybe even as you answer that, you mentioned that 70% of SMEs get rejected on their application to credit. And that really resonated well with me because there's a barber that has been shaving me for the last 10 years. And they really talk about the problems they have to access credit. And they've been going through different entities. They started with the banks, the microfinance institutions, the chairmans, and now her growth plans are being funded by us, customers and friends. So going to friends and customers, what really is wrong with it? Because you mentioned it like it's not something that is ideal in this system. And how is Solv then going to solve that for that barber? And all pun intended for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Sheila, please.
Okay. All right, thanks, Russell. So to speak fast to your question on collaboration, because we are a marketplace, what we're basically doing for the SMEs is we want to bring optionality for them. So if Lafarge was to come on board, there's a space for them to play. And that's why we have various programs. So we're not just focused on a particular program because you realize the ticket sizes that these SMEs need will vary. And you'll find that maybe the smaller financial institutions have restrictions in terms of how much they'd want to lend to, one particular SME. So how we collaborating, first our commitment to our distributors is we want to be able to service 80% of your value chain. And for me to be able to fulfill that promise that I have made is to, one, be able to get enough financial institutions to actually do that. So the collaboration is all the financial institutions that are coming on the platform have a place to play, yeah? So that's how we'll work. There will be no cannibalization. And what we'll do is we'll be able on a monthly basis, because we'll be having consistent conversations with you, at least once a month, sit down and show you the dashboard that says for this particular FIA and FIB, this was, this is how they performed. We will not disclose because of confidentiality who your competitors are and how they're performing, but we'll be able to tell you these are the trends we are picking. And this is how we collaborate. Because at the end of the day, if Lafarge is coming onto the platform, you want to gain, right? So we'll make sure that we have enough programs on the platform to service all the participants that we have in there without allowing cannibalization. Yeah. If I may speak to your question on, what is wrong with going to family and friends. Well, to be very honest, if it's a business you're running, they're financial institutions to fulfill that portion of the need that you need. So it would not be prudent to really be going to your families and friends, whereas we have structures. The government is committed to the SME space. They want to solve for that. So let's take away that burden from our families. Let our families use that money to develop themselves, because when you take that money, you're actually eating into what they would be using to do their own personal investment. So we are a community, like I said, we can't run away from it, but there are also other ways to, to do it, and that's where technology is disrupting that space. Yeah.
I guess if I could just add to that, and you raise a very important point, which really, really is at the heart of what we look at when we put these business models in place in SC Ventures. So disruption is a very widely used term, and by disruption, people thought that fintechs are going to go and disrupt the financial industry. Disruption became a word which was almost getting to a negative connotation in my mind, because what you're saying is you're going to disrupt to succeed. Whereas partnership and collaboration is the way to succeed, right? As a result of that, when we design our ventures, so if I take Solv, for example, there's a reason why we called it a marketplace, right? The marketplace is to make it transparent for partners to come in and be part of that ecosystem. When we looked at supply chains, we never said we're going to disrupt the middleman, the wholesaler, or the distributor. What we want to do is to make supply chains more efficient for everybody on the player. So we're not disrupting anybody, we're making it more efficient. When we talk about partnership around funding, one of the ways we could have addressed that problem was, why don't I just look at, it's a great market, right? Micro SMEs, it's quite lucrative. I could actually say, you know what, I'm going to lend on my own balance sheet. But no, that's not scalable, and that's not the model we want to do, which is why the partnership model of getting financial institutions to come in, because we know that's the way you will scale any of these businesses and be able to serve the demand. So we've got to replace the word of disruption to partnership and to collaboration. And just to answer specifically your point, what Solv will do for you is an introductory model where we are able to bring supply chains onto the platform between anchors and all the ecosystem. We're able to actually peek out the transactional information from there. We're able to create the creditworthiness and improve the creditworthiness of the supply chain, including the micro SMEs, apply the Solv score, and make that ready for you to come and actually participate in that in terms of financing that supply chain at the risk-reward point that is applicable from your organization point of view. That's where Solv will enable your participation and collaboration.
Thank you for that. Jihia, very quickly before I close this.
Yeah, I think to play devil's advocate, and maybe knowing that Solv is a living platform, Russell raises an interesting point. How many of us here have a random 5,000, 10,000 shillings hanging out somewhere there that you gave a family member for their side hustle, your friend for their biashara? We all have these little sources of money that you're saying, I've given it, but I've given, and I know it's not coming back, right? And actually talked about cost of credit or cost of capital. Traditionally, the banks aggregate the money and then they lend it out. So the cost of that capital goes much higher, informing the interest rates, etc. What if Russell said, dear Solv, and the Baba may not be your classic guy now, but the platform may extend there. He says, okay, I've got some 10 Gs in my pocket. And this Baba is my friend. But I don't want to have that relationship. I want to break it. Whether it's my brother, my sister, my uncle, I want to break that relationship. Can I give Solv these 10 Gs? And can they now be responsible of that relationship? And you'll probably get Russell saying, I'd have given these 10 Gs and expect it to go away and never come back. So even if you told him you're going to give him interest, certain amount, he's like, I don't really care. Just get me my 10 Gs back. Then you reduce the cost of capital and you open up a totally new avenue for accessing those monies. And why do I go there is I keep referencing what engineers of pyramid schemes do. You find a couple has ripped off Kenyans of 2 billion shillings. And when the guys are going to Kiambu Road to complain, you're looking at these guys and saying, yeah, the 2B came from these guys. We're here looking for capital and it's sitting right in our pockets in the little pieces of change that we have, and that could perhaps be the source of the capital for the future that is much more affordable.
Thank you, Sheila. You have a point before I close this?
No. Well put.
Thank you. Thank you. So in the interest of time, allow me to close the Q&A at that point. Please note, after this is closed, you can still approach the panelists individually and have a conversation, depending on whichever pressure points you have as far as more information is concerned. Thank you so much. Let me invite you to take back your seats. The technical team, you can come and mic as we transition to the next section of the program. And maybe as we do that, let me just run through some questions online, not really asking them out. There's so much question around, does what SC Ventures is doing fall in direct competition with Standard Chartered? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Asante sana. So just running through some pointers online. Great innovations in the digital space. Let's see how this helps MSMEs unlock more credit for their growth. Another one here saying we need more such interventions in the market to help the Kenyan MSME space away from Shylocks. And one last one here on Twitter is being mentioned that good venture. Let's see how this pans out in the next 12 months. So thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you for your insights on the various issues. We truly appreciate your contribution this morning. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome back on stage Sheila Kimani Omukuba to give us the keynote address. Karibu.
All right. SC Ventures leadership and members present. Standard Chartered Group leadership and members present. Our partners and potential partners. Solv Kenya staff members present. All invited guests. Members of the Fourth Estate. Government and affiliate members present. Online community. All protocols observed. Good morning all. We are happy to have you here. Today is yet another revolutionary day for the Standard Chartered Group fraternity and the financial industry at large. We are launching one of the most dynamic business-to-business digital platforms in our sector, impacting a key constituent of our economy, the micro, small, and medium enterprises. We live in an era that is now enabled by digital transformations to drive value. The industry must make the irrevocable decision to innovate and exceed the ever-evolving customer needs and seize new opportunities. Specifically, it is a moment for the customer. They are redefining their expectations. They want convenient, accessible, and personalized services that are easy to use without shifting focus from their core business. They want to feel like their financial partners and other service providers are not only anticipating their needs, but are also prepared to meet them. One of the most critical customers to both the financial institutions and the global economies is the micro, small, and medium enterprises. At Solv, we are all too aware of the urgency to recalibrate our approach to this underserved market, which is the future of Africa's economies, depending on their growth and resiliency. The Africa Development Bank Group illustrates that MSMEs account for at least 95% of all the businesses and create more than 80% of all the new jobs on the continent. Every month, the continent needs to add at least over 1.7 million new employment opportunities to cater to a continental labor force that is anticipated to increase to a number of 1 billion people by the year of 2063. The MSMEs economy alone accounts for 85% of the non-farm jobs in Kenya, which currently equates to a staggering 15 million out of an 18 million workforce. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the economy is currently absorbing 9 out of 10 young people that are entering into the workforce, equating to about 750,000 people yearly in Kenya. A lack of access to finance epitomizes the main constraints hampering MSME growth, particularly in developing economies. The World Bank and the IFC puts the financing deficit in Africa at a staggering $331 billion. But access to finance is not the prime cause hampering the sustainability of SMEs in Kenya or Africa. Today, we need to append this conversation beyond credit to the unknown territory between financing a business and transcending the proverbial missing middle, which we have spoken about all morning, where more farms disappear from the map irreversibly for the lack of the necessary support to scale up. It means that we face the uncomfortable truths. Do these businesses have the right talent? Are they compliant? Do they have the market access? Do they possess marketing, logistics, digitization capabilities to secure future fit growth and ambitions? How do they survive the late payments for the services and long invoice maturity periods that lead to significant cash flow deficits? These are high complex issues that require out-of-the-box thinking. The new government proposes a range of solutions to solve the MSME growth challenges. We are glad to see progressive policies around the MSME ecosystem. This includes, just to mention but a few, reforms in the business environment, such as reducing bureaucracy and regulatory compliance cost. Importantly, we support the strategic direction of access to finance, which includes our pledge of 50 billion shillings annually to MSMEs and 100% access to affordable finance. As Solv, we commit to support the policies by the government and the developmental institutions to change the status of MSMEs in Kenya. The private sector has its job cut out as well. In that vein, today we are launching Solv, a business-to-business marketplace owned by SE Ventures, the Standard Chartered Group business unit dedicated to innovation, fintech investments, and exploring alternative business models. The Solv platform has been created to digitize the traditional operations of MSMEs whilst providing an inclusive trade ecosystem. Solv is simplifying and accelerating the growth of businesses through the provision of financial services, business services, as well as an e-commerce platform. We work with multiple financial institutions and manufacturing and trading enterprises, and through these partnerships, we address the MSME growth challenges and also give them options for accessing competitive pricing, access to new customers, while supporting and bringing operational efficiencies to their existing customers. For financial institutions, we are providing you access to new customers whilst digitizing solutions for your existing client base. The Solv platform has been established as an invoice financing program that has attracted over 1 billion shillings of pre-approved credit lines since we started testing. This is through the partnership that we have with the participating financial institutions on the lending side of our platform. We have over 3,800 micro, small, and medium enterprises that have been introduced to us by the 28 distributors that we have in our ecosystem. We are passionate about the MSMEs and plan to roll out other products, e.g. the buy now, pay later, business installment loans, a B2B e-commerce platform, as well as other business services that will support the growth that these SMEs have. Our 5-year strategic goal is to facilitate credit worth $3.9 billion over the next 5 years, impacting over 1 million MSMEs in the market that we've chosen to operate in, which is Kenya, and be the one-stop shop for businesses in Kenya. We at Solv are committed to being a vehicle for financial inclusion, financial literacy, and nurturing sustainable business. Solv Kenya is the first in the African market, second in line to Solv India, and aims to expand the marketplace to more countries in Africa and Asia within the year. After a few months of successful piloting with leading multinational companies and their supply chain ecosystem, Solv officially launches in Kenya today. We are excited to begin this journey after an exciting expedition of planning, developing, testing, learning, and eventually seeing an idea come to life. We call upon all our SMEs in this market, financial institutions, multinational corporates, local corporates, leading industry players, government agencies, and other developmental partners to come on board and work with us to build a strong marketplace for the benefit of our MSMEs. Please take a moment and have a snippet into Solv Kenya.
Kenyan micro, small and medium enterprises in a digital world is the key focus for Solv Kenya. Small businesses in Kenya have over the years struggled to access credit due to high risk perceptions, locking them out of business opportunities which need upfront investment. For example, findings of a 2016 survey by the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics concluded that about 71% of the 7.4 million micro, small and medium enterprises in 2015 got less bank loans than they had applied for. And of these, 86% were forced to rely on family and friends to start and grow their businesses. Now launching in Kenya, Solv is a B2B marketplace for micro, small and medium enterprises. This platform facilitates commerce in a trusted environment while easing access to finance and business services through one seamless digital experience. Customers access this platform with the convenience of mobile devices or computers. Solv Kenya's vision is to simplify growth for micro, small and medium enterprises in Kenya. Solv Kenya aims to do this by accelerating growth for Kenya's 4 million plus micro, small and medium enterprises by leveraging technology and data. Micro, small and medium enterprises on the Solv platform will discover, connect and do business with verified buyers and sellers. They will also take advantage of the on-demand working capital and short-term financing through diverse pool of financial service providers and business services. Over 1 million micro, small and medium enterprises in the country are set to enjoy exposure to different financial institutions, which will not only strengthen their relationships, but also give them access to financing at affordable rates. Micro, small and medium enterprises will also profit from the partnership by leveraging their relationships with suppliers who will expose them to Solv Kenya's network of financial institutions. This gives micro, small and medium enterprises access into financing at favorable rates, enabling these enterprises to transact digitally without worrying about a working capital gap. This Solv marketplace will also offer other business services including insurance, buy now, pay later plans, business loans, savings and investments, among others. This platform will revolutionize, simplify and accelerate growth for micro, small and medium enterprises using technology and the power of data. With Solv Kenya addressing challenges of access to finance and smoother business operations, micro, small and medium enterprises can now focus on growing their businesses. With Solv Kenya, growth is simplified.
To Bill Winters and Alex Manson, thank you for believing in rewiring the DNA in banking. To our Standard Chartered Ventures family here in AME and across the globe, thank you for your guidance and support in incubating Solv Kenya. To the SEB Kenya family, thank you for your tireless support. To our board members, Mr. Kariuki Ngari, MD, CEO, Kenya and East Africa, Jiten Arora, SEB member, thank you for the trust you have put in me as I navigate this ship. The launch of Solv Kenya today is one of the many milestones we shall achieve as we steer this brand to excellence. We commit to give you value for the investment that you have put in us. To our vendors, financial institutions, our anchors, and MSMEs, thank you for choosing Solv Kenya as your supply chain financing platform. To my fellow team members, Benson, Valerie, Geoffrey, Duncan, Dorothy, Jane, Michael, and Lydia, I cannot thank you enough for making this a reality. And unveiling Solv Kenya today would not have been possible without your resilience, dedication, timeless support, and hard work. Today, we launch a product and a brand that will change the face of MSMEs, a brand you will be proud of many years to come. I am now delighted to call upon Alex Manson, Jiten Arora, Bogwa Jehia, Akshi Grover, Kennedy Mubita, Dan Karuga, and Benson Minor to stand up and join me on the podium as we officially launch Solv Kenya.
Let's give them a round of applause as they come on stage. Welcome on stage. There, let's remove the... So we are here for the moment of unveiling Solv Kenya. I should warn you there'll be a bit of activity here, so if it comes an explosive sound, your security is assured. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we have been waiting for. And we are here to celebrate the unveil of Solv Kenya. And we shall do that in the way we know best how. So the technical team are there? Shall give us a countdown? Yes. I do it? All right, let's do it in the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Solv Kenya is unveiled. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Congratulations on the unveil. you so much. We shall have a toast which is coming to the stage shortly for the celebration of this moment and excitement around the launch of Solv Kenya. Thank you, team. Thank you, team, so much for that. Let's begin serving this so that we can have some good photo opportunity. Thank you so much. So we shall have a toast to this moment. Thank you to New Beginnings, to unlocking new opportunity for MSMEs. We are here to celebrate this moment as we unlock opportunity in this economy. The journey, as we've been told, is quite long, and therefore getting to this point is a matter of great celebration. My camera crew, are we ready for the photo opportunity? So let's have a toast. Let's have a toast as we capture that, please. Let's have a toast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. And with that, Solv Kenya is now unveiled. We are truly excited about this opportunity and the impact it promises to have in Kenya's business landscape, particularly the missing middle, which we have been told about this morning. Please, you may resume your seats as we continue with the program. You may, please. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Congratulations to the Solv Kenya team. All right. Before we bring this back, we'd like to have just a very quick photo opportunity here. Just come. Let's have a photo opportunity and then we shall continue with the program. Celebrating the excellence of this moment, and there will be that symbolic key being shared across. Thank you so much. Let's capture that. Right. Are we all right? Thank you so much for that. Asante sana. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of this. We are at the tail end of the program, and to give us the vote of thanks, I'd like to invite Mr. Benson Minor. Benson Minor, oh yes, here you are. Let's set up this for you.
Good morning, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Benson Minor, and as Biju, I think Biju has left. He said that the ones in the coats and the ties are bankers, so Jiten, I'm on the exit. So next time I'll be on a shirt, right? So at this point, it's just to thank everyone. We have had a lot of good speeches, good conversations in this breakfast meeting. And I just want to pass my gratitude to everyone who came today to grace this occasion. Special thanks to Dr. Ruto and the team that came in. And we want to say that even as we support the government initiative in the bottom-up approach, so we'll be counted worthy as a partner. And we are looking forward to coming to get the list of the SMEs that we want to partner with. We also want to thank our partners. I'll give a shout to some of them. We have great partners from financial institutions. We have Team Asante on the other end, who have been great partners to us. SEB Group, represented by Jane and the team here. We have Faulu, Microfinance Bank over there, and many other partners that have come to grace this function. If it were not for you, we would not be here. even starting off this great venture. And we have our partners in the corporate section who started off this idea. And I think Sheila can attest that whenever we create these solutions, we create with our partners. Here on the ground, we go to the markets, we talk to customers, they tell us what their needs are. And I want to single out one of our good clients, Outlook Limited, who is a good and fast customer who believed in our story. We went to ground with them and the team from BAT here, and we actually sat in and they told us this is what our customers want, and we were able to achieve that. This is a testament of working together and seeing things through in everything. So I want to thank you, our partners and our corporates, and many others I may not have mentioned, so thank you very much. I also want to thank the media, which has joined us today, and we thank you for even sharing our story today and even going forward. We want to say thank you, even as you preach that we are here to simplify the growth for our SMEs. And everyone else, I just want to say thank you very much for coming in today, and we are looking forward to meeting you in the marketplace. We are looking for your support. Without your support, we cannot go anywhere, right? So there's one saying that says that, and I'll read it, anyone who eats alone cannot discuss the taste of food with others, right? It's an African saying. So we want to work with you. We don't want to just eat alone what we are doing here, but we want to work with you so that we can partner together. And the rest of the team, which is Solv Kenya team, we have good ambassadors here, Lydia and the team. We want to appreciate you for doing a fantastic job. It's been 2 years of hard work, sitting long nights, and seeing this come to fruition is a good thing, right? And one thing I would like to say to the Solv team is that the big game often appears when the hunter has given up on the hunt of the day. We still have a lot of work to do. We need to always be on the offensive. And when you're on the offensive, we win our market. Thank you, everyone. And we want to wish you all the best as you return to your daily endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Benson, for the vote of thanks. That takes us, ladies and gentlemen, to the close of our morning session. On the unveil of Solv Kenya, a few things. Breakfast is still served on this end, on that end. If you wish to grab a bite, please, you're welcome. For those who have been streaming online, thank you so much for being part of this. We do appreciate all the questions you sent us and being very active in this participation. My colleagues from the Fourth Estate, if you wish to have a conversation with any of the panelists who are here, please just quickly do that after this. We had structured a media briefing from 11 a.m. to 11:30. We are still happy to engage in that. Thank you so much. I've been your host, Julian Samboko. It's been a delight being part of this. I normally just come here for investor briefings when Stanchart is releasing their earnings. It's good to be here for something different. So guests are free to leave at their own pleasure and leisure. Thank you so much. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, sorry to come back. We have hampers outside for all our guests, so as you walk out, please be sure to pick your hamper just outside here. Thank you.